After the absolute craziness that was the $300 million celebration, Dokkan just had to come in and drop some insane TURs back to back. And as you saw in the title, in today's Dokkan History episode, we'll be talking about STR Cooler and INT Future Gohan, so stay tuned. The month of October started with the release of INT Future Gohan, an amazing TUR. He introduced the Bond of Master and Disciple category into the game, a category that was pretty decent at the time, as it included almost every student and their masters. So literally every Gohan, Piccolo, and Dragon Ball Super Vegeta. Like, the category was stacked. And since he was also a leader for the Hybrid Saiyan category at the time, yeah, this guy had a pretty good leader skill, and wasn't too bad himself. He greatly raised his defense for one turn on Super, which was a very strong super attack effect back then. He had 100% attacking defense at the start of turn, gave 1 key and 30% attacking defense to Bond of Master and Disciple category allies, something that was pretty useful since the characters on his team didn't all link that well together, so the 1 key actually made a pretty significant difference on his team. Then he had 58% damage reduction when below 58% HP, a buff that could proc mid-turn, so this was huge. Like, bro, below 58% HP, post-super, the guy was practically invincible. He literally couldn't die, so he was monstrous in SPR, and honestly, could even cook in the Legendary Goku event, as you'll see. Because starting from the 4th turn from the start of battle, he transformed into Super Saiyan Gohan. If you had a Trunks on your team, and he was above 58% HP. Transformed Gohan, stacked attack on Super, had 100% attack and 58% damage reduction at the start of turn, had 1 key and 30% attack and defense per Bond of Master and Disciple category ally attacking in the same turn, and launched an additional super attack when facing an Android's category enemy. You almost never saw that last part of his passive at the time, but when you did, the guy was ridiculous. In some Dragon Ball History event stages, he could genuinely look pretty insane with all of the attack stacks and multiple supers, but for the most part, Transformed Future Gohan was heavily reliant on Bond of Master and Disciple units. With a full rotation of Bond of Master and Disciple allies, he could look insane and was definitely a wall defensively, but without them, he honestly was better in the base defensively when below 58% HP. But I guess as far as I remember, it wasn't really a problem back then, as the category was pretty vast and had a lot of overlap with the Hybrid Saiyan category. I might just be biased, obviously, but I remember really liking this guy at the time. His team was fun and he was very strong. The only problem I had with him was that his transformation wasn't an active skill, as it wasn't always better to transform into Super Saiyan Gohan, and since literally the next Dokkan Fest TUR had an active skill transformation, so it was kind of weird, but I guess not the worst thing ever. Gohan also came with a new banner unit, Super Saiyan Trunks, from his fight against First Form Cell. Honestly, the guy wasn't really that great on release, from what I remember. Like, he was very good against Android category enemies, especially Cell units, but since most bosses weren't any of those at the time, it kind of made him very situational, but with all of his buffs active, yeah, the guy could look pretty cracked. Like, 6 key and guaranteed crits when facing an Android category enemy was nothing to laugh at the time. He also greatly raised his attack and defense for one turn on Super, had a total of 3 key and 170% attack and defense with a Future Gohan on his team, and an additional 70% attack when facing a Cell enemy. Like, bro, with all of his conditions active, he could definitely cook. But like I said, he had a very niche use. Also, I have no idea what they were thinking with this guy's name. In what world did this guy share the same name as the Dragon Ball Super Trunks? He should have had a different name. Like, honestly, the Trunks' names in this game are still a whole mess, but it was worse back then, as this was before the same name update. And the Strength Rage Trunks, who shared the same name as this guy, was much better in almost every scenario, so the guy was essentially dead on release, unless you were facing an Android or Cell enemy. As for Gohan's banner, it honestly wasn't the greatest. It featured Tech Hit, who was only good in SBR, Strength Transforming Boo, who was only good if you were able to get Boo Piccolo out, otherwise he was mid or straight trash, Physical Future Gohan, who was very good in the Legendary Goku event, Physical Super Vegito, who was literally worse than his older Dokkan Fest counterpart by that point, and INT Goku, who just wasn't all that anymore. I still summoned as a Future Gohan fan, but yeah, the smart choice was for sure to skip. They also at the same time revamped the Future Trunks story event, adding a new Dokkan Awakening and 2 new free-to-play units. The free-to-play Future Gohan wasn't anything crazy, like his base kit was alright, but he was an SSR, so his stats were pretty low, meaning he was literally unusable outside of Dokkan events. But Physical Future Gohan was now farmable, so this was pretty good. But bro, honestly, just looking at this guy gives me PTSDs from my Future Gohan shaft. The 19 Future Gohans are still sitting in my box, by the way. I don't know if I'll ever recover from that shaft, bro. Just absolutely brutal. On the other hand, the future androids were pretty good. They both stacked attack and defense on super, had additional buffs when paired together, and launched an additional super attack when facing a hybrid Saiyan category enemy. Like, they were genuinely insane cards for a Dragon Ball History event, and could cook in the Legendary Goku event. Some of the best free-to-play units they ever released. The next day, they announced that the legendary campaign for LR Strength Vegito Blue was on the way, and just like Trunks, you needed to have him fully maxed out before the beginning of the campaign to get all of the rewards, which was definitely much easier. Vegito Blue's grind was bad if you were a newer player, but if you had played for some time, it was definitely a less tedious grind than any of the Prime Battle LRs without the category bonuses. They also announced at the same time that Prime Battle events would now be available throughout the week, and not just during the weekends, which was a pretty big deal if you wanted to farm LR Prime Battle Trunks. 4 days later, and there were rumors that Gogeta Blue was going to be one of the 50th anniversary headliners, as it was leaked that the Dokkan Gogeta Blue figurine was going to release in February. And I remember Truth saying this.
I mean, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, they dropped this guy as, you know, him and, I don't know, LR Blue Vegito or something like that, and they're damn near the best units in the game. That is going to be like that. I think this would set the bar for the new highest amount of hype in the game.
The guy had to have some sort of insider info, because there's just no way. He predicted the 50th anniversary and the level of hype it was going to have just like that. Like, it's genuinely crazy. The next day, they fixed a bug with INT Future Gohan. Apparently, he wouldn't transform if the only Trunks character you had on your team was their free-to-play exchange unit. I guess since he was an exchange unit, it somehow didn't count as a Trunks in the game's code, but yeah, it was a pretty big deal, as this was your best free-to-play Trunks option for the Legendary Goku event. We also had update 4.6.0 that same day. The update finally gave us the option to select and sell all of the Satan statues we had with one button, a pretty big quality of life update. They then added shortcuts to the reverse awakenings in the characters menus, which was also very much appreciated. And this is going to sound crazy, but you could now swipe left and right in the Baba shop. Like, how was this not a thing before? And how did I never realize that at the time? You had to click on the arrows left and right to actually go through the Baba shop tabs. You couldn't just swipe left or right on the screen. That's just crazy to me. The game was really different back then. The update also added the label and search functions to Dokkan Battlefield, which was definitely very useful if you wanted to use the tag feature to make your Battlefield teams. Like, if you were using category teams, this could generally be a good way to keep track of things. With this update also came brand new summon animations, with the most notable ones being the Goku Black Rift, the Whis 3-round animation, the long Kamehameha, and obviously the Xeno animation. It's really been that long. I don't know why, but in my mind, those animations were pretty new and recent, but I guess just time flied by this fast. But what's crazy is that this is the update that added the Blue Goku summon animation, a summon animation that they just forgot about and literally never used. The next day, Vegito Blue's legendary campaign was out, with your typical legendary campaign stuff, like the Hidden Potential System event, multiplied EXP in the story mode, and obviously more Podara medals in the Baba shop, to help newer players who didn't have many fierce battle units to awaken LR Vegito Blue. But what was interesting here is that they also fixed a bug where the next story mode area wouldn't unlock if you didn't clear all of the stages on the same difficulty level. I literally had no idea this was even a thing, and that's probably because, like most people, I always ran the story event stages on the highest difficulty. So yeah, that's probably why. We also had a new Extreme Z area, this time given an easy to INT Future Trunks. The easy area, as far as I remember, was pretty bad, as the units you could use were not that great. You essentially needed to start the turn with both the future androids on rotation, or else you were cooked. If they weren't paired together, they could get you killed, and they were like one of the best options you had. But the worst part was really the easy itself. INT Future Trunks' easy was really not that good. Like, brother, the guy was the sub leader for the INT type. Lowered attack and defense on super, had 100% defense at the start of turn, 100% attack when facing 2 or fewer enemies, and 50% attack with a 70% crit chance when facing an android category enemy. So the guy was barely a card if you weren't facing an android category enemy. And even then, he wasn't anything crazy. I still farmed him as a future Sagastan, but he really wasn't that good. And I remember being pretty disappointed by his easy. That same day, the Dokkan Twitter account also reached 600,000 followers. And to celebrate that milestone, they gave everyone 22 Dragon Stones, 3 Elder Kais, 10 character slots, and various training and awakening items. So some very solid rewards, literally for free. 5 days later, we had the EZA of Agel's % Blue Kaiken Goku. A pretty difficult EZA from what I remember, as he was weak to Universe 6 category units. A pretty small category. Like if you had a hit in all of the Universe 6 girls, the stage was fairly easy, but if you didn't, yeah, this was rough. Nearly impossible to finish. As for the new EZA, Agel's % Blue Kaiken Goku was pretty decent. He now greatly stacked attack on Super, had 59% attack and defense at the start of turn, an additional 59% attack and defense for his first 10 turns, and 59% attack as well as guaranteed crits on his 9th turn. Like, he was definitely very good and fun to use, but nothing absolutely crazy, especially considering the fact that he still sacrificed 5% HP with every super attack. Like, he was essentially just a glass cannon, but you could still use him in the Legendary Goku event with some items and luck. The guy also dropped with the sub EZAs of the 2 Gotenks. Physicals % Gotenks was a very good EZA. He literally had Strength per Gogeta's EZA leader skill, an immense damage multiplier, 120% attack on super, and 1 key and 30% defense per super attack performed, up to 120%. This was one of the first sub EZAs that I actually farmed, just because of how much I like the rotation of him and Physicals % 3 Gotenks. Genuinely a very solid rotation for the time. Strength % Gotenks was also pretty insane. He had a 30% chance to stun the enemy on super and gave all allies 1 key and 40% attack and defense when facing 2 or more enemies. Like, this guy with the right RNG was an absolute beast in the Fusion SBR stage. The value he brought to the team with his stuns and support was just crazy. I still preferred the physical one as he was less RNG reliant, but this guy was just as good, if not better, if you're lucky with the stunts. The next week, we got the annual Halloween Fish Play unit and the awakenings of the previous ones. The new Fish Play Kid Trunks was an amazing Fish Play unit, solely because of the fact that he stacked defense on super. Like, that alone made him so valuable for the Legendary Goku event, but he also gained additional attack and crit chance per attack performed, while gaining additional normal attacks with 3 and 5 or more key spheres obtained. An attack buff that was calculated separately for a total boost of 189% attack. From what I remember, the guy didn't do any damage if he didn't crit, but was practically invincible in the last phases if you stacked enough with him, and the additional attacks meant he had a higher chance of proccing his hidden potential additional. Most of the time, the guy supered twice within the turn. He was definitely very good. The Dokkan Awakening of Candy Vegito was also amazing. He now stacked attack and defense on super, so he was also usable in the Legendary Goku event, even though less than Trunks, since the guy was tech, did no damage, and his defense kind of depended on the amount of key spheres you could pick up within a turn. But even then, he was one of the best options you had as a Fish Play player for the Legendary Goku event, since your options were obviously limited. But outside of the Legendary Goku event, the guy was an SBR beast, with his great chance to dodge and medium chance to stun on super. Just an amazing Fish Play unit. The other Dokkan Awakening was even better. INT Gotenks and Ghost was just an absolute beast of an SBR unit. He had a 50% chance to stun on super, which was insane, while not only being a Rainbow Orb Changer, but also healing per Rainbow Key Spheres obtained. Like, brother, without this guy, me and many players would have never been able to beat the Fusion SBR stage, even the Fusion E SBR stage, once that came out. He was just that good, and the fact that he had a unique name was just so useful, because that Fusion category was so limited. They also brought back the N-type banner and gave Dokkan Awakenings to the N-type supports. They all had the same base kit, meaning they gave 3 keys to their respective type, 50% attack and defense to their respective class type, changed a certain type of key spheres to orbs of their type, and gained 20% attack and defense per key spheres obtained. So a pretty cracked base kit. But what differed between them was their super attack effects. Kid Gohan's super attack effect was pretty cracked. He gained 30% attack and defense for 9 turns on super, meaning he could generally cook in the long events of the time. He was even not bad in SBR after a couple of stacks. Vegeta on the other hand, stacked attack and had a 30% chance of stunning the enemy on super, a pretty decent super attack effect, especially in SBR, but not as good as Gohan's for long events. Oh, and their leader skills were also insane, like 4 key and 120% attack and defense to the respective class types. This was very good for Dokkan Battlefield and the monotype SBR stages. 4 days later, and we got another World Tournament, the 32nd World Tournament with some brand new cards and awakenings. The awakening of Strength % Vegeta wasn't anything crazy, like he greatly raised his attack and defense on super for 1 turn, had 120% attack and defense at the start of turn, and gained 20% attack per attack received, up to 80% attack, a buff that was calculated separately for a total boost of 296% attack, which sounds pretty good on paper, but in game, the guy just wasn't all that because of his low Fish Play stats, and he also shared the same name game as Physical Transforming Vegeta, who was an all-around way better unit. As for the new World Tournament banner Future Play units, Grandpa Gohan wasn't bad. He had 100% attacking defense at the start of turn and 80% attacking defense for 3 turns after evading an attack, which was calculated separately for a total boost of 260% attack and defense, so pretty decent. And he had Tricky and a 50% dodge chance with a Kid Goku ally or enemy, so genuinely not a bad Future Play unit on INT Kid Goku's team. SR Invisible Man was more of a meme unit. He could generally help you beat the Super AGL SBR stage, as he had a 70% dodge chance while also lowering attack and defense on Super. Obviously not your first option, not even like your top 20, but if you really didn't have anyone better, he was at least runnable with some RNG. As for the new World Tournament reward card, honestly his kit wasn't all that, but I remember players farming him solely because of the fact that he was the best Bojack in the game. So he was the perfect linking partner for LR Bojack and the other full power Bojacks. So even though he wasn't great at the time, just for his unique name, people farmed him in hopes that his awakening would make him great. The month ended with a teaser of the next Dokkan Fest, which looked like a new final form Cooler, who dropped 2 days later. And let me tell you, Strength Transforming Cooler was absolutely insane for the time. He introduced the Terrifying Conquerors category into the game, one of, if not the best, extreme class categories we had seen to date. It had literally every Turles, every Frieza, every Ginyu, every Cooler, even Saiyans like Vegeta, Nappa and Raditz. Like, the category was just stacked. But then he also led the Transformation Boost category, one of the best categories the game had at the time, especially with all of the transforming units they were pushing. So this guy had literally one of the best teams in the whole game, which was extremely rare for an extreme class unit. Then he lowered attacking defense on Super in base, something that was very good in SBR, had 100% attacking defense at the start of turn, gave Transformation Boost category allies 2k and 30% attacking defense when facing one enemy, and 2k and 50% attacking defense to Terrifying Conquerors allies when facing 2 or more enemies. Like, this was just insane. Like, brother, 50% attacking defense was just ridiculous at the time. Like, he was literally everything you wanted the leader to be and more, because when transformed, a transformation that you could proc started from the 3rd turn from the start of battle, when facing a Pure Saiyans or Hybrid Saiyans category enemy, which was literally like 75% of the game, and even if you weren't facing them, you could transform starting from the 6th turn when facing only one enemy, so he could still cook in the Dragon Ball History event. And transformed, the guy was disgusting. He stacked attack on Super, had Tricky and 180% attacking defense at the start of turn, launched an additional attack that had a 30% chance of becoming a super attack, and he had guaranteed crits against Pure or Hybrid Saiyans category enemies. Like, brother, the damage this guy could dish out against them with his guaranteed crits and additional super attacks was just insane, especially paired with his base TUR, because yes, this guy's transformation was an active skill transformation, meaning you could run both him and his transformed TUR together, which was just an insane rotation. They shared 7 out of 7 links, and those links were cracked. Like, bro, the guy was just crazy. He was an SBR monster while also destroying the Legendary Goku event. Like, he was just him. Unfortunately, his banner unit wasn't as great. They were a sub-leader for the new Terrifying Conquerors category, which I guess had some value, lowered attacking defense on Super, gained 30% attacking defense per Terrifying Conquerors category ally on the team, and launched 2 additional attacks, each with a 15% chance of becoming a super attack with a Cooler on your team. Like, with the right RNG, they could look pretty good, but most of the time, they just felt alright. Honestly, they would have probably been insane if they just had a better link set. Like, bro, this card literally had the worst links in the game. You literally just couldn't proc them. They only shared one link with the new Dokkan Fest Cooler, and that link was Fierce Battle. What? No idea what they were thinking at the time, but this single-handedly killed that card. As for Cooler's banner, this was literally one of the best Dokkan Fest banners we had seen to date. It featured Name Goku, who was still a monster for the Legendary Goku event, INT Kid Goku and AGL Middle Cooler, who were still phenomenal in SBR, INT Angel Golden Frieza, who still had value, not only in SBR, but also for Super Sentry Goku's EZA, and Physical Final Form Cooler, who was low-key back thanks to Cooler's support. Like, if the only good unit on the banner was Cooler, the banner would have still been valuable just for him, but the fact that it had actual good featured units just made it a borderline must-summon banner. We also got a new story event with a new farmable Future Play Cooler. So Cooler was literally farmable on release, like, bro, this was just perfect. And even if you didn't pull the new Cooler, that Future Play Tech Cooler was insane. He stacked defense on Super and gave 2 key and 30% attack and defense to Terrifying Conquerors category allies. Like, this was just such a good Future Play unit for the Legendary Goku event. They just nailed it. We also got a new Extreme Z area, which was clearly going to give EZAs to all of the units that awakened from the hero Extermination Plan event, a decision that a lot of players hated at the time, since those Extreme Z areas were not only tedious, but also gave worse rewards than actual easy events, and the fact that you had to run Agile Whiz and Physical Hachiyak in that easy area just sucked so much. I think that to this day, I didn't even finish it, just completing other garbage of an event. And the easiest perfectly reflected that. Like, the first easy wasn't even that good. Ageless % Goku had a 30% chance to summon Super, which I guess could be useful in SBR, but his passive was just not great. 77% attack and defense at the start of turn, and 7 key and 77% attack and defense when below 77% HP, with a 115% 12 key multiplier. Yikes. This was just bad, bro. Especially for a character with such a competitive name. But yeah, this is it for today's video. In the next history video, we'll take a look at the month of November, which featured the release of LR God Goku, the 2019 Heroes Units, and Dokkan Fest Android 13. But until then, take care. Peace.